I'm going to just carry it because I'm going to be a limited talker. I'm going to move it around. So I sent it to my daughter, and Facebook at that time had just moved from the Ivies to the Ivies of the Midwest. So Northwestern joined Facebook. She was at Northwestern. And so she posted that video on her homepage. And at the time it was a very experimental, and there weren't that many videos. So her posting of that video, My Briefcase, was listed on the landing page of Facebook for, I don't know, a week or so. And one of my friends asked me, what was I doing? At that point, I actually was able to get a Facebook account, and there's, you know, John Idleson's briefcase. So at that point, I said to my daughter, why in the world would you do that? She said, well, Dad, I try to explain you to my friends, and they don't really get it. So I showed them the video, and they really understand you better, and they even think they understand me better, looking at you unpacking that gadget-filled briefcase. The social networking power, though, is, you've all heard of EDUCAUSE, 5,000 people in a big convention hall. And I'm walking down the hall in, I'm not even sure what city it was, but trying to avoid being pulled in by some exhibitor because it looked like I had money. And I hear somebody yell, "That's John Idleson's briefcase." So all at once, this power that social media has to be a communicator sort of dawned on me, from the first experiences in AOL and then the early Facebook. And then at CSU Monterey Bay, we worked very actively with a statewide teacher credentialing program that was site-based, and we had to build community. And that's where we started using social networking tools as they got more powerful. So, in the sort of theme of social media and collaboration and shared data, coming up with those words were really what we thought was sort of the key, because social is great, but the social really provided for collaboration. And the collaboration really meant sharing things, and whether the data was information or metrics or actually, student products. And so sort of the idea here is, how do we, and we are a room of creative thinkers, or if not creative thinkers, at least early risers, how are we looking at this whole social media and communicators and facilitators to influence either our own institutions to adopt or take advantage of some of the new powerful tools, or our students. So with that, does somebody want to sort of say who they are and what they're doing and what they hope to get from this facilitated conversation? Can I start with you? Yeah, all right, yeah. It's not good to be near the professor.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Katie Holdham. I am currently part of something that's called a Project Management and Service Success Office, and I work in Central IT Department, and we're managing a variety of projects, but I specifically work on projects that facilitate instruction and learning, sometimes the environments like physical spaces, sometimes virtual spaces.
And what were you hoping to get from this discussion?
Well, I hadn't given it a lot of thought as to what specifically I would get out of it, but it caught my attention because I like the idea that we're at a conference not just to learn, but to communicate with our peers. And I thought this would be a good way to start the conference, really.
Speaking over my coffee. That's not nice. I'm Nicholas Hodge. I'm with the University of Arizona, as is Katie. We're both, I'm the director of the aforementioned office. The projects that I'm leading within, so I've kind of got three major projects raising up this brand new office. And so I'm interested in thinking about, we are a project management office and an IT department. So that presents its own challenges in terms of how we communicate with our constituents and convincing them that this is a good idea. And then on top of that, I'm leading the effort to get our ship in order because the University of Arizona is going online. So I'm sort of managing the IT spaghetti around that. And then I'm also, in conjunction with that, we're bringing up a brand new student portal. So I'm really trying to think about how we can sort of effectively convince our larger constituents in the terms of 40,000 students that that's a good idea.
So the new student portal, is that going to be implemented
It is. We're starting soft with just our online populations, which are small now, and then the goal would be that it is stem to stern, you know, prospects to alumni.
So in the old days, they used to call student portal the one-stop shopping. Is that
Yeah,
sort of
the
model?
same idea.
Is there also a goal to have this be the social?
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's really where that's the playground we're in right now with our online students, because more than our regular students, our main campus students, they really need that to sort of feel like they're part of something.
Yeah, so how many of you have a physical bulletin board or spot where messages are posted on your campus? Does that still exist? Paul, you've got one up in Alaska. Scatter drop campus, okay. But you said that your campus didn't?
No, I work fully online.
And you are?
Really
Oh, Empire State. My wife was one of the first deans there. Don't hold it against me. No. And Paul's from University of Alaska, Anchorage. CSU Monterey Bay was a campus built on the former Fort Ord, and when we opened up, we were part of the base closure, so the campus opened very quickly, and we didn't have a student union, and we were a quote, high-tech campus. So we never got a physical place where you would do ride shares or boards. It was online from the very beginning. That was our social spot. So I'm going to head down here. Why don't you talk a little bit about who you are and what you are?
Yep. Morning. My name is Ram. I'm from Singapore. I work with Singapore Polytechnic, which is one of the primary polytechnics in Singapore. We have about 4 of them, and we were the oldest one. We just finished celebrating our 60th anniversary last year. So big one, so we have 16,000 students. And I'm with the IT department. I take care of a team that develops mobile applications. So in the last couple of years, I think we've done about close to 30 mobile apps. As of now, we are now looking into migrating our applications from an old platform to the new one, which is Microsoft SharePoint. And SharePoint, as if you heard of it, is all about collaboration, social media, and all that. So I thought I can come here and hear from all of you, maybe get some ideas on what else I can take back and implement back. In a month.
It's not picking up.
Hello, good morning. I'm Susan Lazenby, and I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee, UT Chattanooga, and this is my first campus technology conference. I actually am the IT manager for communications and strategic planning, and my hope was to hear what you guys were doing that people actually looked at and that they read and understood, because I'm currently drafting a communications plan for the IT department, because I think we spend a lot of time talking in ways that people don't listen to or understand. So it's kind of my job to translate that into something people actually want to know about. Well, I'm the person for the whole central IT department, so I manage all the communications that go to each individual group. So it's a lot of vetting and writing and trying to tailor messages to each specific audience that you think is going to be relevant to them, which is a lot of work. It's good job security. At the university or in that job?
At the job.
Probably about a year and a half.
And it's the university.
About going on 9 years. Yeah.
I'm going to sneak back down this way. Oh, comment? Go for it.
I thought it was important that I jump in at this point because I'm from UT Knoxville. Yeah. And I'm the Director of Communications for the College of Social Work there. And coming to this particular session, my interest is ideas about how to effectively use the social media. I've been working hard to build the Facebook and Twitter audiences and to join that together and make my communications effective, not silly, but to draw in the alumni, all the different interest groups. So I'd like to hear ideas about that.
How many of you have a Twitter account for your campus? Who manages the communications department, your PR? How many of your organizations actually track Twitter from that have your campus name on it, or that if you aren't, you should be. Yeah.
So our campus does have several. We have a sort of a main campus Twitter accounts and then sort of sub Twitters for different departments. And in IT, a funny way that we use Twitter is that after registration, we go out to Twitter to see how it went. And if we see a lot of griping, then we sort of circle back and check our measurements and sort of see, if it was us or just generic disdain. And we use it as really a bellwether for how our systems are running, because if they're not running well, Twitter is on fire.
That happened on our campus. We had a fairly major problem in terms of a new system in terms of it's actually connected with registration, and the IT folks and my colleagues, I should say, because I was the sort of professor that they decided to have me join the IT department because it was better to have your enemies close. I launched one too many servers under my desk. So my colleagues, but they were sure everything had gone well because the machines were all working fine, and it was the Twitter where they found out where all the problems were. To sneak down here and.
My name is Mary Ellen Okarowski, and I'm the technical director at the National Security Agency. So I'm probably the only odd duck in the room in that I'm a government employee. I don't think many of you realize, but almost every large government organization has their own learning organization. And I'm here because I know what they all do, but I really need to understand what's happening in higher education.
So you're with?
I'm with the NSA.
NSA. I'm glad you can even say who you're with. They're following all of our accounts. No. No. Yeah, no, it's, yeah. Yeah. I can say a little bit about the NSA because I've actually consulted for them, which is one of the challenges in NSA, Homeland Security, the military services. There is a social network. One of my good friends works for whatever Space System Commands, but he's a naval officer in Afghanistan. And they had a fairly major problem dealing with the soldiers in country being able to go get a local burn phone and send messages back home because they had a hard time getting the communication links back home through the, quote, official channels. And so they were compromising military information because they couldn't keep the, bring your own device has a whole different thing when you happen to be in a foreign country fighting a war. But security, I guess, is something that we talk about because the social networking does actually have a major impact on the security of your system, who's there and who the identities are, and identity management. But yeah, all the government agencies are having challenges, both with what they're doing in the learning organizations, but how to deal with social networking. At least in some government organizations, there's a chain of command, and particularly in the military, they say you shall not do. Saying shall not do to students or faculty is raising the red flag, saying, I think every campus is beginning to question whether they should really be holding these hackathons. It's encouraging things. So, Josh.
Sure. I'm Josh Simon with the University of Michigan. I'm sort of wearing multiple hats. On the one hand, I'm representing my college, which is one of the 19 schools and colleges there. We are the largest undergraduate school. I work in their IT department. I tweet on behalf of the department. So Usually it's status updates. This service is going to be unavailable. This service is back. I'm also part of a couple of campus-wide initiatives. So on my personal account, I tweet on their behalf. And one of those is actually the organization that sent me. So that's why I'm here this week. Most campuses have the equivalent of a faculty senate. So the president, for example, can exchange information with them. Our former president said, I've got that, I want to do the same with staff. So they've created a program for the equivalent of a staff senate, but that's not what we call it. That organization is sending a couple of us to this conference to learn more about what everybody else is doing. Easily a couple of years.
And have you done an analysis of who your followers are? No. Okay. Does anybody ever here have a senior officer, whether it's president, vice president, who maybe one their lifetime actually had people print out their emails for them because they were technologically challenged? So we have an equivalent at a not-to-be-named CSU campus where, now having a president who didn't know how to do email wasn't an issue, but a president who wanted to be hip but didn't know how to be hip, and so wanted to have somebody tweeting for them. And so it's interesting, what identity you have. Does your tweeting identify with you personally, or does it identify with the position, like the IT? I wonder what the Tuesday Post is about.
Good morning, everyone. My name is John Honchel. I'm the IT director at Inver Hills College in Minnesota, just outside the Twin Cities. One thing, just the heading Communicators caught my attention. Being the leader of a bunch of IT employees, I'm going to stereotype here a little bit. I have a department full of introverts that are expected on a small campus to communicate outward, and whether it's print, face-to-face presentations, creations of videos, whatever it happens to be, they struggle greatly, and it's something I've been working on with them for the past 7 years, but just looking for suggestions on how to get my geeks out of the cubes and not be afraid of the female staff on campus.
When you figure that out, let me know. My son's very shy, and I want him to get married, so we haven't been able to figure this out.
Right, hide in the cube away from the female staff.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a sensitive subject here, which I'm sure I will promptly place one foot in one mouth. And anyway, but one of the things I looked at this room, and this is not an educausy looking room. We have a fairly good balance between men and women, and a fairly good diversity of age. And I think that's one of the challenges that we have as communicators, because I will say in the broad stereotype that, male geeks are probably not the best communicators, and my wife, who has pointed out that she has been a skilled communicator. That's her greatest skill. In fact, Helen Chin here, my co-author on a book, we write stuff, but my wife says you academics can't communicate to even yourselves, less than the public. So, need that communicator phase. So I've outed you, Ellen. Do you want to say who you're here?
Sure. Thanks, John. My name is Helen Chen. I'm the Director of ePortfolio Initiatives in the Office of the Registrar at Stanford University. Certainly, the topic caught my eye because of John Edelson, who is a very skilled communicator and someone who is very thoughtful about giving the diversity of audiences that he works with, what the different strategies are. So I really came to listen to him.
And as a shameless plug, Helen and I did a book on documenting learning, but one of the themes of that was dealing with stakeholders. And it'd be interesting whether, people, when they do their sort of communications with social media, think of different personas for the different stakeholders, because the tweeting or communications that you may want to do for faculty from your faculty development office may be very different than what you want to do for your entering freshman students. I'm going to sneak over here.
That's a really good point. It's something we've been kind of dealing with too. My name is Jason Black. I am from South Virginia University. I'm kind of the middle child between IT and communications. I've been in both positions. Right now I'm kind of, they said, the director of digital communications. So my job when it comes to communications is to do not only the translation from the technical for the general audience, but talking about constituents and stakeholders. We deal a lot with that. What kind of voice do we maintain for different social media entities and personas? What do we do for internal communications that we don't do for the prospect communications? And one of the major struggles that we have, which again caught my eye on the topic, is how do we kind of create good, effective, but quality communications internally that matches what we're doing on the outside? And certainly when you decentralize a lot of this content development through Twitter and other social media platforms, with more players, it's hard to maintain that level of quality so that you sustain that, also the institutional identity and all those factors. So it's kind of my interests.
So I get curious when you're talking about different identities. In your tweets or in your communications, how many use emoticons? Okay, let's do an emoticon vote here. If you use them, show your smiley. No. But hands up. How many people in their email or text use emoticons? Raise your hand. How many do not? What? Okay, let's this now we're getting really personal. You are Rick. Okay, so we'll do 4-point question here. How many people use emoticons officially in university communications? Raise your hand. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, how many of you use emoticons in your personal communications? Okay, it's an interesting dilemma. It's a sort of what is proper, texting. What was the great story about AOL? But, somebody thought it was lots of love, or so it kept on saying AOL, lots of love, and the daughter told the mother it really means laughing at you. So. Or whatever AOL means. LOL, excuse me, LOL. I'm dyslexic. Okay. I stay up at night and worry, is there a dog? Think about it, okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Patrick Masson. I'm with the Open Source Initiative. And so we have affiliates around the world that solely exist because of their ability to communicate across geographical space, obviously, but also cultures and countries and all sorts of things. So the Linux Foundation and WordPress Association and Drupal and all those groups. And what's interesting so far is that a lot of the discussions have been about the tools that are used. And the tools don't really matter. We have folks that engage on IRC, folks that use Mailman, listservs, folks that use wikis and all sorts of different things. I think what's most important is technique, and specifically authenticity. So a lot of the tone so far has been, how does the institution manage communications? And I don't really think that personally, and the open source community might be different, but I don't think that you really can. I think the institution has to recognize sort of 3 principles: self-direction, self-organization, and self-motivation. And once you allow your groups to self-organize, meaning come together on their own, and self-direction, meaning pick the discussions that they want to have, you get much more vibrant communities. And the role of the institution, or the governing organization, or the body that's looking out, is really to communicate the channels that are available for different people to find peers so that they can collaborate and co-create. There's a great group called the Community Leadership Summit that's run by John O'Bacon, who wrote a book called The Art of Community, and he's the community manager for the X Prize, and he's worked in all sorts of things. That's a great resource if people are interested in finding folks whose job is to be, quote-unquote, a community manager, and deals with a lot of this, of how to find and create authentic communities, and that community will decide if they want to use emoticons or if they want to use, Twitter, if they want to use whatever, and the institution just enables that development.
Yeah, I think we, and of course, so you're using TweetDeck, right, to keep track of everything?
Yes. So there's 9 windows open because 9 columns open because those are the communities are happening. I don't control these. I simply watch them in order to participate when I can, direct people. So I'm facilitating other people's communities rather than trying to say the OSI says to do this.
Yeah. Well, actually, when we were making up this list, I thought the word facilitator should be up on top as part of it. But I do think we do talk tools because you do have to figure out how to use them. The early discussion boards, which was some sort of attempt to have a social discussion, and I don't know how many of you, but you had a class assignment where you will make 3 posts and reflect on somebody else's very, very awkward. I thought of discussion boards as like a cocktail party where people ran into a room, wrote on the wall, and ran out, and expected this to be an ongoing dialogue. But I think you bring up the part of who is in control. So I think if communication is one way, it's not sharing your communications. But then IT organizations themselves and institutions tend not to be very easily allow people to take charge of the discussion. I think in higher ed we find ourselves policies and procedures. So
I'll say, full disclosure without being hated, my previous role was as CTO for UMass and CIO at SUNY, so I appreciate the constraints that IT organizations work under, but the reality is that there are readily available tools and communities that the IT organization does not control, that conversations are happening already, and that's not things that are hosted under your desk, right? Those are things that are out there already, whether it's subreddit or whether it's Stack Exchange or whether it, whatever it might be. And so again, how do you help those people when you find your IT department is on Hacker News and they're talking about great stuff, and your English department is in subreddit, English curricula? I don't know if that exists. Probably does. How do you let them engage authentically in that and join the conversation rather than trying to manage the conversation?
Well, I think a good example with Reddit is that whole, who are the moderators, who controls it, and brought down the CEO. So that is a true challenge. I'm going to pull another name. You are Holly.
Hi everyone. I'm Holly from PebblePad, so I'm the evil vendor in the room, if you like. So I came to this session because I've been to one of John's sessions before, and they're always good. And I'm interested in hearing what you guys are doing about communication and maybe transferring that onto some of our strategy for PebblePad USA, because we've only been here since January. I've been alone in the US since January. So I think it's time that the US part of PebblePad has its own identity now and communicates that with, with everyone here. So if anyone wants to give me any good ideas, I'm open to it.
And now we all think we are smarter because we had somebody with a British accent here, right? If you aren't aware of PebblePad, you should definitely. Do you have a booth here? Okay. So, but you should. Oh, okay. Okay, at the Able. If you aren't familiar with PebblePad, this is of course, this whole country you guys used to own, so don't hold it against us. But if you aren't familiar with PebblePad, it's started as an e-portfolio project, but it's really become a whole communications tool. And it's a very interesting story, started academically. They have their first U.S. implementation at the University of Portland or in Michigan. So it's definitely worth looking at because they talked about how to collaborate and share student learning. Okay, so do you want to say something before you go, or you're just departing? Okay, perfect. Say your piece and then leave.
Oh yeah, I'll do that. That wasn't very friendly. Is this coming through? I'm Deborah Hove, and I teach for Athabasca University, and I feel like a mole in the room because I'm not in campus technology. I'm here with Abel, and I'm the coordinator of our ePortfolio project. We also have a university-wide social networking tool that not enough people are using because they started it arse backwards, can I say that? Instead of looking at how people on the campus want to communicate with each other and what they want to communicate and how they want to communicate, they set up the tool first. In our ePortfolio project, we use Mahara. We use open source software wherever we can, and I don't have a British accent. No, but I'm in Canada, but I'm Australian originally. And within the ePortfolio, we use Mahara, and what we are finding, we use also Moodle, is that students are starting to set up their own social networking as they post comments to each other's ePortfolios and ignoring the social networking tool of the university.
Go present.
She didn't leave.
Okay, well.
The one thing about social media we've learned on our campus is our students do not like combining their personal social media with their school social media. They want them separate. Most of our faculty believe that we should be out there on Facebook, and they want all this information on Facebook, and what our students tell us is no, they actually don't want it there. They want accounts separated. They don't want to be associated with this over here and this through the same channel all the time, and it's shocking to faculty all the time to hear such information or revelation.
I just wanted to say that I found that to be true as well, because we have an IT Facebook page with next to no likes, and I spent tons of time, at the onset of it, updating all the information, keeping things current, and I told my boss a few weeks ago, we just need to get rid of it because nobody looks at it, and it's worse to have a public face that no one looks at and that, it's not worth updating than it is to just get rid of it and focus our resources where they really want them to be.
What I'm hearing, and I think it's maybe a common struggle, is that on our campus, one of the problems we have is that there is this sort of notion of that IT just makes decisions and then people are supposed to use them. But I think it's either we're a victim of our own success or a victim, I don't even know how the paradigm evolved, but we're really seen as a department of function, not a department of form. So it's difficult for us to find avenues to sort of seek that feedback without sort of a formalized session where we buy pizza and the students come tell us what they like, which is not a real and organic way to solicit feedback on what students are doing and how students are using it. And one of the ways that one inky-binky way we've been successful is that I'm thinking of you as our Bill Newman. We have a really amazing professor on campus that's got his hand in every single pot. And so he'll have classes and he'll sort of introduce subjects for us in his class and solicit feedback, and then we get, make them write a one-page paper on what they think. And we've been really successful in that way to sort of figure out what's right, what's wrong, what we could be doing better.
Following up, you were saying about social media. If you're not familiar with a product called THECN, if you know of Angel, the authoring system, this was created by Ali Jafari. And it's a combination of LinkedIn and Facebook in its own space. And we found out that it's not universal. Private four-year institutions, the students did not want their professors on their Facebook pages. Community college students were excited that the professor, wanted to follow them and took an interest in them. So we found some sort of differences, and I'm sure there's even more differences. But Ali Jafari, when he was looking at creating the course networking, it's a social networking model about sharing courses. So if you're taking an econ course in Taiwan or Vietnam or in the U.S., you could be sharing with other students who are taking that same subject matter. And his research came out is that students really didn't want to mess up their social network with their academic network, so Facebook wasn't a real appropriate place. LinkedIn was a nice place, but like you're saying with the NSA and stuff, people don't necessarily want to go on a network and say, I really don't know about X, Y, or Z, when that may be in their job title. So you don't want to use LinkedIn to say, I really would like to study more about this. I'm a surgeon, but can I learn this? And then somebody else reads it, oh, my surgeon doesn't know how to do this. So he set this as a separate space. We've got 3 hands up, so I'm going to, VCN, THECN.com. And the thing is called course networking. So I'm going to hit, you've spoken, I'm going to hit you.
I'll just ask just a quick question. Given that at least a lot of students want to keep their personal social networks and their school social networks separate, and lots of students, or most students at this point, probably use at least one or a variety of online homework systems to do their homework, have people thought about trying to connect the school social network with the online homework system as a way to sort of, get them to communicate where they're actually doing work?
I think the closest we had is that on our campus, when we started with Blackboard, our IT organization automatically set up a Blackboard instance for every class. And so one of our professors who got somewhat upset because he was doing a lecture at the end of the class, there was some confusion about something, and the student said, well, we'll just check it out on Blackboard. And the professor said, I'm not using Blackboard. And the student said, we are. Now, to me, the depressing thing on that was that what came out of that was our Senate eventually voted that the professors had to turn on Blackboard for them to use it, rather than I thought would have been the proactive model, say, well, yeah, let everybody do it. But the professor who this happened to was somewhat threatened that the students were, quote, talking behind his back on the system. Someone had their hand raised here that I missed. I want to make sure I get who. Okay, you got it.
So it's interesting that folks are saying the difference between the professional and school, or student and school identities. And so the real interesting challenges is why don't the students feel as part of their personal and professional, maybe not professional yet, but at least the people working, that isn't part of their identity, right? So they still see the communications that they're getting from the institution as something that they're not part of. That's why they say, we don't want to. When we have folks that are deeply engaged in communications, it's because they feel as part of their identity, they're part of the Drupal community, or they're part of the Python community, right? Once you get past that, they don't see themselves as customers, but they're contributors. Why do you want to communicate if you're just being lectured to, right? So what are the opportunities that these folks in your communities have to affect what's going on? Otherwise, they're just getting an advertisement.
Let's see, does anybody know when this is supposed to end? I didn't. 6 minutes ago? Okay, so we're going to do one more question, and then we'll do a thank you wrap up.
Well, I just wanted to say that with our Facebook and Twitter, and I have a fairly small pond because it's social work, but I try to develop silos of interest groups, the alums, the students, the faculty, and then spotlight each group. So if you're spotlighted on a page, you want to join that page, you want to like it, and then share it. So I haven't really found that estranges. It draws in, kind of like what he was just saying.
Yeah, the power of your own picture always works. Well, first I want to thank everyone for contributing. I think we did a good job of collaborating, sharing, and facilitating. If you have other thoughts or ideas, there is the My campus seat, whatever the little app that they have. You could continue discussions on that website here. But thank you for coming out at the crack of dawn on Tuesday.